looked like cheerful confirmation too.
It did. Everyone was very responsive.
Yeah, there's almost an inch of snow came down today. It's terrible.
Was there school today, Scott, or do we know how we'll get the kids home?
I remember when we used to take cans of soup, just we were prepared.
Just in case. And your snowshoes.
I can barely hear everybody, just so it must be my computer thing. Is it? And no one else has any issues?
I can hear
I
okay.
can hear you, but barely.
Here.
I got my thing cranked, but I don't know.
It's quite loud on my end.
Oh, it
I
says
can hear
low
Pat,
system
but it's
resources
okay.
may affect your audio quality. Try closing some applications. Well, how many can I close?
Oh,
Yeah, we can't see you on video either, Pat.
Oh no, I had the video up. Oh, you can't see me on video now? Oh,
No.
oh boy.
can't close much else.
Pat, do you have a
Yeah.
new laptop?
What's that?
Do you have a new laptop?
No.
Some of them
You
have a
need a new
little some of them have a little slider up at the top because it looks like your video is connected, but it's not displaying. So if you look at your camera there, is there like a little slider button?
Yeah, it
that you
is.
can
It
hover
is.
over?
It was on earlier. It doesn't seem to be.
Okay, that was my only thought. Sorry.
Now I don't know which way is off, open or closed. Maybe I'll close. Maybe I'll reboot. I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea,
That's a
Pat.
The
Good
old
option.
IT solution.
We can likely take on the beginning part of this, can we? Since it's two.
We do
Yeah.
have quorum.
I think it's just Kevin yet. Is that? Oh, and Sue.
And
That we're
Councillor
waiting for?
Matrosovs.
Oh, and Andrea. Yeah. Hi, Sue.
Hello. That was strange. I got on before and I could see everybody, but I couldn't mute, I couldn't speak, I couldn't do anything.
Oh, no.
And my video didn't appear. So this is strange. Anyway, good to see everybody.
Hello.
Okay, we look like we're pretty good to go here at this point in time. And it being 2:02 in the afternoon, I'll call this meeting of the Urban Road and Road Exchange Task Force to order. It's good to see everyone on the screen here today, because it's nice that in Grey County, not all the time are we going green and gray, but that sometimes we go white and gray. So nice winter afternoon. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations to be made at this time? Not seeing any. We've got no delegations. We've got one report from staff, which is regarding the maintenance of county roads in urban areas. And there is an option to be discussed at the end. So I think what I'll have done is staff present the report. We'll take questions throughout the report. There's different sections which we may be engaged in questions, and then we'll have a motion at the end respecting the option that's within the report. Who on staff would like to introduce it? I see Trevor. I see Sharon on the screen.
Sure, I'm happy to start till Pat gets back. Mandy, did you want to share your screen? And we have a PowerPoint deck that we're just going to lead you through as part of the report itself.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay.
You just need to go back to the beginning, Mandy.
There we
There
go.
you go.
Okay. So the next slide, please. So this slide is just really reminding us why we're here and that we're responsible to provide recommendations to council regarding the management of rural and urban roads. And the goal is to have the whole project completed by fall this year. We'll see how that goes. We are actually where it's highlighted green. So we're discussing with you the urban summaries and recommendations today. And if you look just below that, we do have further meetings with municipalities listed, and that's all dependent on the results of our next two meetings. So this discussion is the urban discussion. Our next meeting on April 4th will be the rural transfer discussion. And then at that point, we'll be looking for direction on if we actually need to go back to the municipalities to draft agreements, or if, depending on the results of the meeting, where we're at. This next slide really does just describe what I talked about. So the goal of the urban road system, streamlining the county road network and improving the management of the infrastructure that's present. And the April task force meeting, again, will discuss the potential road transfers, which is those 6 roads that we specifically spoke about at our previous meeting. But the urbans will be only urbans today. That's our only goal. We did have the report drafted together as urban and rural, but it was quite a beast, and we thought it was far too much information to bring to you all at once. So we thought it would make more sense to break it down a little bit so we could have better, more focused discussion. Pat, do we have you back yet? No.
Yes, you
Okay.
do. He's
Oh, we
there,
do.
Sharon.
Oh, I was muted.
I do see
Yeah,
him.
I'm
Yep,
here
there he
now.
is.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to take over from
Yes,
here?
now you're all very loud.
Oh, sorry.
Good, good. Okay, where are we here?
So we're on slide 5.
Urban roads. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, just back to our problem here again is that we have a lot of settlement areas. It's only 10% of the county road, but they are a lot of work. And it's just the urban and the rural is so different. There's a little more detail to follow on exactly, and most of you are familiar with this because you have urban and rurals yourselves, but just showing some of the different issues that always seem to be a challenge for us is kind of why we're here to kind of figure out what level these roads should be at. So on to slide 6, it's our same old urban road county considerations and just some of the issues, you know, like the plan construction. I think everyone does their best to work together. Our 10-year plans have gotten better, or 5 in some cases. But it still feels like a lot of jobs, there's just kind of too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone has slightly different things they want to do, maybe a different window. Typically our construction goes fairly early, sometimes because of urban concerns, a music festival or a homecoming or something. It just makes it hard to know exactly, you know, when timing works for us and works for a municipality that has something to do with the residents and concerns that we might not know about. Again, entrance permits, utilities, just another one of those things that permits seem to cross multiple desks and no one knows exactly who's in charge of what. And as far as pedestrians and cyclists, there's still a lot of confusion. Typically the pedestrians are with the municipality, but they're at our intersections too. It's confusing for staff, not knowing who's in charge of what. And then of course our water, wastewater, and storm sewer, the different agencies doing different things. We're always in that storm sewer. You know, the county's just that little piece in a bigger system, and we don't control the outlet. Typically, we don't control the majority of the flow. It's usually coming from, you know, an urban development of some sort. Sidewalks, we know, is usually with the municipalities, not us, but other people don't know that. And just the summer, winter road maintenance, right-of-way issues, urban versus rural, just such a difference. So many different concerns for a municipality versus us. And back to speed limit, same old thing, many requests, you know, can you make a road a 40? And, you know, we'll go back and say, well, if the municipality wants the roads to be a 40, our speed limit policy will allow us to do it, or we will do a 40. We aren't huge proponents of 40 because typically we're moving goods and people, but maybe for municipality, it's the right thing. So even staff doesn't necessarily know, someone will phone, we'll get a call saying, oh, they told us to call you because it was a county road. And then we'll say, well, the municipality has to kind of instigate a 40, not us. So even staff gets confused on who's in charge of what. And then back to our signalized intersections on the MTO connecting links. It happens, there's signals upgraded or modified as part of a connecting link project. There are signals, but we're not in charge of the capital for a connecting link project. Maybe the wrong controller gets installed at a signal, and we were going to install something later that can't because it's just different. So that stuff does happen. And the funding has to go through the connecting link because we don't get a connecting link funding. So it's just one of those things where we're in these urbans and it's kind of unclear exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So basically, the headline here has it like the more efficient model, right? Somebody's paying anyway to take care of these urbans, to do construction, to do maintenance, to address citizens' concerns, that type of thing, right? So we're just trying to figure out what level it should go at. So snow removal, like I said, pedestrian accommodation, lighting, signalization, all those things that go into an urban environment. And we just feel that although there is some concern, everyone's just, it's a little afraid of, change. It's something new. We just feel it'd be much more efficient for each municipality to manage their own urban roads within the primary settlement areas. So that would be a total of about 5% of county roads. 35% of that owned by Owen Sound of that 5. So Owen Sound's about, just under 2% of the county in the urbans that would be controlled by them. So if you look at the report, if any of you have it open too, like to page 7, all those settlement areas are listed. There's all the primaries and then a couple secondaries that we're talking about, Flesherton and Ayton. And then it is shocking when you kind of think about it, how many small little settlement areas there are. Most of them don't have a lot of services. They're kind of a rural hamlet. But there is a few more settlement areas than you think. So these are kind of our benefits of it going. And if there's any questions, someone can just let me know because I can just see, I'll just see Sharon here is the only person I see. But the benefits of local management, right? Just a timely response, saves us driving in from Chatsworth to Owen Sound or from Flesherton down to Dundalk or, you guys are already there. People are already there. There's staff there working in town. Just understanding local needs, right? Things like automated speed enforcement areas that maybe the municipalities understand better than we do. Community engagement, like, we get a lot of requests for parades and such. Of course, you're going to allow the Santa Claus parade. I mean, it does in a lot of cases. There is no real detour. It's tough for us to, we want to keep our roads open to move goods and people. Obviously, the community has other issues that are important, right? Like any sort of community fair or sidewalk sale, anything really. So we end up signing all these permits and signage permits that really are kind of more in the interest of the town than of just moving goods and people. Just cost-effective budgeting, delays in budget. We all have to kind of agree. We get the same year. Maybe someone's budget passes later than someone else's. It's a priority for one group, but it isn't for another. And just the way all these construction jobs go and permits and that type of thing, moving a job, for a year, 6 months or 2 years, it really, really affects certain people, but maybe not others. But having all these kind of people meddling in a project just makes it really confusing to keep everything kind of straight. I even look at Blue Mountains, the 4-laning at 19, because, they've got the booster station in there. Simcoe is there, Collingwood's there. It just, all those parties make it very difficult to kind of get your plan set. And just adapting to local conditions, right? Just even back to snow removal, right? And drainage areas. We don't necessarily understand exactly the ins and outs of the urban areas the way the urban staff does. And greater accountability too, because there's always that. Probably everyone on this on this committee has gotten calls from someone complaining about a road that really isn't your municipality's issue. You know, and you say, well, it's the county road, and the county says, you know, maybe it isn't our road. So there's just that misunderstanding of people. And it'd be nice to just have this is our town, and we can do something about the issue that comes up. So this was what we've discussed. The municipalities of those on that list on page 7, the primaries and the 2 secondaries, would become 100% responsible for all activities on urban county roads within the primary settlement areas. So that would be all the way from, you know, the permits. We even talk a lot about, we're commenting on development proposals. But again, we're not working directly with the developer maybe as much as the town planning would be. So the municipalities would govern the roads, your local bylaws, whatever works for the town in question, those would apply to their local roads. And of course, it seemed like when we went around to all the municipalities, people are just worried about, you know, having a new responsibility kind of dumped on them that they'd have to pay for. For one, you got to make time for it, and 2, you got to pay for it. So we want to include a transition plan, because as I keep saying, somebody's paying for it anyway. So, you know, whether you're still paying for it and own it, but at least you'd be responsible to do what you think is the right thing to do. So I don't know if there's any questions on that piece. I'll just keep going here. So
Yep, I think that's good, Pat, because I'm like you, I can't see anyone on the screen. So if anyone has any questions, just please speak up.
I'll jump in first, I guess. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My biggest concern is what you said there about taking over all of the responsibilities. And are we talking about, from snow removal to, you know, I get the sidewalks. We have a connecting link. And I think this is where it came from with MTO on Highway 6 going through the town of Durham. Are we looking at the county then, if we're taking over all of the snow, you know, clearing and whatnot, that coming in on 4 into Durham, or coming in on 3 into Ayton, or the county line into Newstead, that the county plows lift up, drive through, and drop at the other end of town? That's what you're meaning by taking over all? Or is there some coordination going to be made here on that specific piece? For sure bothers me when we say all.
Right. And through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that is a great question, because that's everyone's worst case scenario, right? Nobody wants to get the call from the citizen saying, I just saw a plow going through and the road's covered in snow, but it's lifted up. So yeah. I almost think of it more like we have all our kind of shared agreements with, you know, Bruce or Simcoe. We have one, Dufferin. And basically it's just, you know, there's sections of road we're still responsible for, but we pay Dufferin to plow it because they're there, and vice versa. So it's just that type of thing. And we realize that when we talk to all the municipalities, with the exception of Owen Sound, really, Owen Sound does all of our maintenance on our roads in the winter. We pay Owen Sound, right? So it'd just be a series of maintenance agreements. We're going through town generally,
Okay.
You know, and so we would be plowing them as well. But again, it would just be, it'd be agreed upon that this is what we're going to do and this is what we're responsible for. And maybe the summer, any sort of summer maintenance, I think probably wouldn't be as need to be shared as that with that prime winter maintenance is tough. So I don't think there's any intention here to leave anybody in a lurch and saying we're getting out of town and we're driving through, but we're not going to do anything. Like that's not in anybody's interest, right? So I think it would all be tied into these series of agreements, maintenance agreements.
Yeah, so that is still an open piece, and definitely glad to hear that. I mean, as I said, it works well for West Grade, especially on Highway 6 right at the present moment. The idea that IMOS or the Miller Group comes flying up Highway 6 or down Highway 6 and lifts the plow and comes down the hill and da-da-da. And as you said, lower tier is a little different than the upper tier. we don't have that 24-hour service on a lot of our rural roads. I'm not certain that they even have it in some of the urban centers around, but the county does on that, and I think it would behoove to be able to settle those agreements, and they've worked well for us, and it would just make sense. Thank you.
Okay. So here's a list of kilometers per municipality. As you can see, Owen Sound is kind of the big one. And there's just a note at the bottom. So Chatsworth, it has 0, but McNabb Street would be discussed during our road transfer, which is the next meeting. So generally, you know, we pay anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 in these winter maintenance agreements per kilometer. It isn't a huge number, all these roads. Some of it we're paying for anyway. You know, we pay Owen Sound to do ours already. So anyway, that just gives everyone an idea of what exactly, and it's detailed a little more on page 7 of the report, what roads make up those suggested urban transfers.
And we'll get towards George and Bluffs when it comes time for that goat path up around the peninsula, or up to the peninsula.
You keep
Correct, Cindy?
trying.
I'm on mute now.
Okay, sorry, I missed a page there. So financial compensation, this would be some sort of urban center agreement with financial relief. So nobody wants to be stuck doing something that isn't in any budget anywhere or any capital planning, right? So we'd look for a transition program of some sort, a funding transfer, basically align with our current capital budgets. Again, we're not asking you to make too many decisions today, and this urban piece and the road exchanges kind of falls in together to figure out how the money works later. So there's a little bit of I don't know, you know, equalization stuff going on, and maybe we're taking on a bigger road that needs a lot of capital needs, but maybe some of the maintenance the municipality has done and the money kind of works out a little better. So yeah, we'd be looking for existing capital. We're not trying to leave anyone with a road that's just not going to get fixed. And the transfer of winter maintenance may be the exception based on what was heard by the municipality meeting. So as we said, not everyone can come in there and take on their own main urbans, like the highest level roads. It's just some of you just don't have the equipment or manpower to do that. So that's, which totally makes sense, because if you didn't need to do it, why would you have it, right? So, and then all changes into urban center agreements. And like Councillor Eccles said, we have all sorts of agreements with other municipalities, and they all seem to work out. Very rarely do we end up getting in a fight over it. Everyone kind of tries to work out what's fair, and it seems fine. So our next steps are just come in April with the rural road transfer options, which is there's a little more money in that one as far as difficulties in who pays for what. Those construction jobs are pretty pricey, of course. And then starting again to hold meetings with each municipality to confirm the plans for the urban maintenance agreements. What has to go in those agreements? Because there's probably still things in there that we're not thinking of. And then develop a plan to finalize the road agreements. So we're still trying to get this, you know, I think they went over a timeline there before I got on online, but still trying to hit the 24 date. You know, it's obviously a push to get there, but definitely got to get it done this, you know, before the council comes near an end of term. And the compensation model at the bottom there will be something that we all need to agree on.
Okay, thanks, Pat. And we'll just take a second here to go to the full screen so I can see everyone again. Are there any questions for staff from members joining the meeting through going through the report?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I saw the warden's hand raised first.
Okay, perfect. I'll go to the Warden Mill, then Member Matrosovs and Member McQueen next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Pat, are you suggesting that these urban center agreements would be somewhat similar to the Connecting Link program that the MTO has? Is that kind of, I mean, it wouldn't be word for word, of course, but is it a similar type of philosophy? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, we were looking through that recently, and we kind of it seems like the Connecting Links agreements doesn't necessarily pay for maintenance, but it pays, you know, up to 90% in capital. Whereas I think it is sort of a Connecting Link thing, but we're a little more, you know, we're paying about 50% or anywhere from 70 to 30, depending on the capital job. Like we kind of pay what we own, you know, a storm sewer and road base and such. And then we pay, you know, anywhere from 6 to 10 a kilometer for maintenance, say. So it's sort of like a Connect Link, other than I think we would probably pay something for maintenance and probably not as much for capital. I always did have an issue with the Connecting Link for capital, and that sometimes 90%. I worked on a couple Connecting Link jobs as a consultant, and when you're getting 90% paid for, you really, really build the Cadillac, I think. Not that it's a bad thing, but it just, if you're the one holding the 90, everyone building the Cadillac isn't so great. But
right,
anyway.
Right. Okay, no, that's fine. And I have to admit, I'm not real familiar with the Connecting Link program, because Southgate doesn't have any, but that's fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Warden. Member McQueen.
I think Andrew or Member Maxersoff is before me.
Sure, I can start. Thank you. For you, the chair. Thank you, Member McQueen. So I did have a brief feedback from our staff with regards to the report, but my question is when I was reading through the report, I just wasn't sure how much preliminary discussion, just informal discussion or viability that you've had with both our operations department, but I'm also wondering if there's been some pre-discussion staff to staff in terms of our finance departments as well, because that certainly will be a big question of it. And what I would hope, and what I'll ask then is does it look like we can achieve efficiency so that it's not just a matter of taking cost C and dividing it and saying this is A and this is B, but somehow we should come out further ahead. We should come out further ahead on the county side, as well as whatever kind of financial benefit we have on the town side. Certainly moving equipment in vast areas, it doesn't make sense when you can do something more locally. And definitely, you know, our initial staff response, as well as my own, is certainly when it comes to our downtown being a county road, that, you know, making it easier for community groups to organize and do things there, it certainly does make sense, as does the stormwater process. Now that our process is different, where the towns are now having to look at approvals from the ministry, if we're having to take on that responsibility, yes, let's put the responsibility of the roads in the right pocket. So my question would be about that greater efficiency. Do we see that coming on a financial basis?
Yeah, and I would say when we talked to we just had our initial meeting that all of this committee was at with the municipalities and staff. So that's kind of where we got an idea of what the big gaps were and what people didn't do. We started going down kind of a path of looking at, you know, this is what it would cost. This is kind of what we pay for this. But we got into some numbers and we thought, like, we really didn't want to spend hours and hours and hours getting down into some sort of proposal that had a dollar amount, you know, to the penny, going through our finance committee, because we just thought, let's see if everyone's kind of on board with the idea. And then and I realize it's really hard to make a decision when you don't know what money you're talking about, or efficiencies for that matter. But I think that our next step would be kind of the deeper dive into all that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks, Andrea. Member McQueen and then Member Mackey next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a little follow up on the part of the winter maintenance, or that maintenance spot, like with the Connecting Link that we have in Fletcher and Markdale. We just pay because it's sort of our road, but the plows go through up Highway 10 right through. We pay our portion of that plow that goes through, and it just continues right through. Because that would be the other thing, when the county is coming to the outskirts of, say, Markdale and Fletcherton or any other place in Grey County, they're not going to turn around and go back the other way. They're going to continue on through, and it goes to the part maybe what Kevin was talking about with the blade up or the blade down. So it is part of that agreement, and I think we sort of touched on this maybe at our last meeting that the county would still carry on through, because with the county system is probably more 24 hours, where municipal might be, you know, that daytime 12 hours or whatever. So that would have to be, I don't see that being difficult to figure out or to do. Summertime, not an issue. I mean, that's not a problem on that part. But yeah, I think the bigger issue is the transfer of, and what Andrea says too, if it builds efficiencies and all that type of thing. Yeah, I guess that's something. But if we just, the devil will be in the details, in the sense of I know that the 2014 road study, there was like, I think 180 kilometers of transfer down to lower municipalities, and that was a bit of a you know, there was a lot of roads being moved around, and that was a big swallow, which we never moved forward on. That is or maybe it was more in that transfer, I can't remember. But you know, the devil will be in the details, and I guess I understand that where's the chicken and the egg and who goes first, but you're going to have to get at some point. So I guess, Pat, did you get a feedback on the lower tiers that they were open to that idea of having that conversation to see where, like, did you get a good feel on, you know, with your conversations to the staff?
Well, I would say more in the years leading up to this than when we actually acted like it was going to happen. Then everyone kind of gets a little, like, everyone's just a little nervous, right? You're doing something new. You don't know what the details are exactly. And I think people are just a little nervous that they don't want to get stuck with something. And they sure don't want, everyone knows they're under a financial burden. Everyone's budgets are troublesome. And everyone just wants everything to work out. They know they can kind of, you know, and we're kind of the same here. You know, you can kind of get through with what you got, maybe. You really don't want to change the financial picture. So I wouldn't say that, you know, people are overwhelmingly running to this as quickly as they can. I know even Blue Mountain staff had said maybe we do it for a limited period of time, see how it works, which I think the beauty of kind of our system of having mayors and deputy mayors or county councilors is it isn't kind of maybe a final decision. If it's something, you know, things have modified over the years to something that works better. And maybe we're just too far away from what used to work for us. Like, and even with our neighbors, there is a lot of variation in what they do. Some of Simcoe, you know, they get to Barrie, they just stop. There is no county roads in Barrie, right? But other ones like Bruce, kind of with their hamlets, they tend to go through them, you know, so, and Dufferin's kind of going through they kind of have a connecting link thing, but they're doing rationalization now too. So everybody's kind of on the spectrum. So, I guess it's hard to know exactly. Staff is just cognizant that it's going to change the way they work, and it's going to take some effort. So
just following up, I guess you'd have to figure out, depending on what it is, to be fair to all municipalities, is so much per kilometer of a transfer or whatever that formula would be. You'd have to try to figure out, because some have more kilometers than others, and you're gonna have to figure that. Or is the other way is bite size, little bits at a time. You try a certain part or another part, or, you know, I guess there's ways of working that too. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Paul. Just before I go to you, Member Mackey, I see Randy's hand in the air. Maybe you want to comment.
Yeah, just further to what Pat was indicating, I think, yeah, we heard mixed reaction, I think, when we had those discussions with the municipalities, in terms of, I think we can all see that there's efficiencies to be gained by having this owned and operated by a single entity when it comes to urban roads. There was definitely concerns about, as some of the council members and the task force members have indicated, questions around the maintenance, especially in the winter maintenance, and how that's going to be worked out. But we think there's a path forward there, like Pat said, working that in the agreements, and continuing still to being able to offer that winter maintenance on those sections of roads, especially if we've got a plow, like what Councillor McQueen said, if we've got a plow that's going through to Markdale, not just stopping at the edge of Markdale, but continuing on through. So I think there's opportunities still there that can be explored further. The other part of it, and it boils down to everything that we get into when we're looking at potential transfers of roads, is the dollars and cents, right? And again, that's where we're thinking, And what we're proposing or suggesting is some sort of financial compensation model to help with that transition. We don't have the details of what that looks like. We just wanted to run this concept by this task force to see is this something that we should even explore further. And if so, then let's work out some of those details with the member municipalities to see what that looks like, what's palatable, what will work, and what we think will work towards gaining those efficiencies by having a single entity own and operate these sections of roads. So that's the whole conversation, in a nutshell of why we're here today. And so we think we can gain those efficiencies, and we think we can work out something that makes sense for everybody. How we're going to pay for it all will still be a bit of a question, but it'll become a bit clearer once we have the road transfer discussion, as Pat noted, in April. Just when you start seeing some of the costs associated with that, how we can maybe balance some of this out by looking at the urban roads and the rural road transfers as a kind of an overall package on terms of how we can move forward with some of these. So I just wanted to raise that and just note that, yeah, like Pat said, we see mixed reactions when it comes to some of this stuff amongst the municipal staff, but I think some of that stuff we can work through. And that's why we want to propose at least this option to the task force to see if we should pursue this.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Something that comes to mind is your signal light intersections and insurance and agreements. As we know, sometimes there's accidents, sometimes there's situations that could happen, can happen. And then again, who, from an insurance point, who is responsible? But obviously, if there are two different authorities entering an intersection, they both get named and all that kind of stuff. I'm not as much on the accident, but just in the sense of the insurance and how you, obviously a signal light system probably makes more sense at a local level because they know the local traffic. It can be changed locally on that sense. But then on the other side, if there was something from a county's perspective or a county's system wide and it's ran by the municipality, but there's just a few things that come to mind. Like obviously it changed when the province downloaded to the county and then the county downloaded to the municipality. I guess it works its way out, but I'm just thinking on the sense of insurance and how that all filters down as well. It's more of a comment than a question, I guess, but it's just a comment to be made. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Member Mackey, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Pat and all the transportation team, I just want to thank you for continuing this work. The first time, a number of years ago that we started to talk about this, we've come a long way. And when we first started to talk about it, I know there was a lot of apprehension. I think you're working towards trying to quell some of that apprehension. I like what I'm hearing today about working with the municipalities. It shouldn't be us and them. We're all together in this. And if there is efficiencies, this is the only way to find them. So I fully support the work that's being done here. I think it just makes complete sense. And I like what I'm hearing about working out, some of those fine details with the member municipalities in the best interest of the only one taxpayer that we have. So thanks very much.
Okay, thanks, Scott. I'm not seeing any further questions. I've just got a couple.
Warden Mill.
Just sorry.
Go ahead, Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to the last speaker, I note that Chatsworth has no mileage in the first two charts. So that's good. Thank you, Councillor Mackey. Anyway, the point the point I wanted to make, and I wanted to go back to Randy's comments there. The fact that everybody's worried about getting saddled with additional costs. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we're not, as a group, we're not being asked to take on any additional costs. Everything's being paid for now already. It's just a matter of who's going to pay it. And so, as Scott did mention, Mackey, that, as a group, we need to look at the benefits for the entire county, not just individual chunks of road. So I wholeheartedly agree with him. I agree. I like what I'm hearing so far. And so I'm very supportive of carrying on with the project. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Warden. I see Kim's hand in the air. Go ahead, Kim.
And not to just pile on here, whatever. I'm very conscious of the fact that at the staff level, you know, an awful lot of this stuff would never ever come to your table, right? It's up to staff to sort out these matters, and it's sometimes really difficult to put a price tag on that. But it is people's time, and one of the things that we're all challenged with is the fact that there's a lot more work in the day than there is people to do it. And so, you know, through this process, if we can take away some of the friction and that Pat mentioned, and make it easier for people to just move forward and get their business done, I think there has to be savings there. The other piece that, you know, I continually see is just the difference in you know, policies and what that does to planning applications and how it can really slow up getting approvals. And that aspect of things, I think, has become, you know, perhaps more critical in, you know, in the times that we're in right now, where we're often really looking at, you know, the clock's ticking to get things organized and get them approved. And, you know, where our policies and what would be necessary in the urban don't directly align. And then we're, you know, looking to make differences or provide allowances for things. In the end, it kind of starts to erode the integrity of the whole system. Like now you've got multiple situations and multiple policies for those situations. Again, it's just complexity, and it costs time, and time's money.
Thanks, Kim. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, and Kim just pointed that out right there. This just isn't on the maintenance of the road. And that's what we have certainly with the connecting link that we're familiar with. A lot of it has to do with development and planning and everything else. Now you've got two different people, and especially when you're dealing with a provincial ministry having to entrance permits or any type of that access things in your urban areas. Now you're fine. Here you go. You have the proposal, and it really streamlines for any development processes that we have. And on saying that, yeah, I never thought that Grey Road 40 ever went through Chatsworth. So now we've really proved it. That's why they don't have anything in this urban area. And it'd be great for them to pay for any extensions to Grey Road 40 going forward out into the rural areas. Thank you.
I don't see Scott's hand in the air to want to comment, so we'll keep moving along. Thanks, Kevin. We do have, we've been discussing the option that's within the report. Are there any members that are willing to make a motion to provide staff the guidance to continue to move forward in response to that option that's in the report? I see Member Eccles with his hand in the air, and Councillor Mackey likely a seconder. Oh, go ahead, Tara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry to interject here. I just would like to confirm with transportation staff, given the next meeting in April, whether at this time you're looking for any sort of recommendation or direction, or if from a flow perspective, if it's more ideal to wait till April. But I absolutely defer to staff and the chair to discuss that one.
Okay, I see the recommendation just to be receiving the report for information, recognizing the option, the table 1 and table 2 is the preference of committee. Seemingly, as indicated today, there's been no discussion to advance any items in the third table, or to move out of table 1 or 2 any particular items. Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, and initially we were just thinking at this stage just to receive for information, and then you know, obviously through the discussion today from the task force, I think I think we've had some good discussion. I think know generally where from the task force perspective where we need to have those further conversations. I think once you see the road transfer report in April too, that'll give you kind of the complete package, so to speak, in terms of where we go next and what those discussions will entail with the municipalities. So that's why we were just looking to receive for information today. We'll come back with that transfer report, road transfer report in April. And then at that time, there may be the task force provide some further direction and guidance on what options we should be having further discussions with and exploring some of those details with the municipalities. But we're all obviously open to any discussion and any guidance that the task force wants to provide. But at this stage, we'd be okay with receiving it for information.
Okay, receiving for information without giving you any direction on table 1, 2, or 3. In the report, it's noted as an option, and it's kind of stated as a preference. Do you want to speak to that, Pat?
Just kind of as Randy said, yeah, I mean, a motion could happen too, but I think we were thinking probably the motion after the next meeting when we have the road transfers and because they do kind of, they tie in together as a total package on roads at the appropriate level.
Okay.
So we're still, I mean, it's good news for us today. It's nice to hear that everyone's supportive of the way it's moving, and we're going to keep moving on that front, of course, but we don't necessarily need a motion to do that.
Okay. So is that good with Kevin and Scott, just to receive the report for information?
And with that direction, it'd be in the minutes that staff continue, with that understanding. That was my understanding of what I was moving anyways, was to receive and direction to continue on working towards developing agreements and what we'll see in April. Good, thank you.
Okay. I just have one question for staff from the report. If I speak to, it's in page 6 of 9, and it's regarding the asset management plan. So the maintenance, I think, is pretty straightforward. The snow removal is going to be the same regardless of who's doing the work. The county has their own standard of care. But it does state in the report, any storm sewer infrastructure upgrades are typically incorporated into projects costs and are therefore not quantifiable as a separate budget line item. When you get into working with municipalities currently on road stormwater reconstruction projects, are you able to somewhat estimate at cost if you are scaling up existing storm sewer capacity? So for instance, like a 300 to a 600, or if you're looking at something that's extremely aged and you know that you're going to have to replace that the next instance that road is dug up anyway.
Right. Yeah, I could answer that. I guess the first thing is we did get as part of our asset management plan, got all our storm sewers cameraed. So we are aware of the condition now. So I guess occasionally you might get a capital job in an urban that you might not replace a storm sewer, but typically our storm sewers are a little on the older side. That being said, yeah, we have a decent idea of pricing. Actually, in the urban and the municipalities do more than we do. So very rarely do we upsize them unless there's, some sort of development driving the road project. But yeah, that's they're not set every year. We're not going to go, I don't think we've ever had a job where we just went in and did storm sewer and nothing else. We always tie it in with, whatever else is dug up, you're doing water main and sanitary at the same time. So very rarely, unless there was a failure or something, which does occasionally happen, very rarely would we go in and do just storm sewer. So I think we have a pretty good idea of the condition. We know they're all coming in the next, 75 years. And that's kind of where the asset management plan gets that money from. At some point, they're going to fall into these other projects.
Okay. So it's not quantifiable, but in a roundabout way, it is quantifiable because you've already had them scoped and you've got a good idea anyway. I think is what I heard. Yeah. Okay. Did you have your hand in the air, Kim? Sorry, you're
You're
just
on
on
mute
mute.
there, Kim.
Sorry, just in case everybody didn't see this, at the top of page 5, it does talk about our current policy is that we pay for the construction of storm sewer up to 600 millimeters. And then any upsizing after that is the responsibility of the member municipality. So, but I think you probably knew that, Scott.
Okay. Go ahead, Member McQueen.
Of note, on that page 5, there is an option for discussion that's bolded on the black writing. Obviously, as Tara was suggesting that nothing would be decided today, but I sort of sense from the report that is sort of a where it says municipalities become 100% responsible for all the activities on urban roads within primary and secondary settlement areas noted on table 1 and 2 below. The municipality will govern the roads as per the local bylaws and policies attributed to the local. So I'm assuming that was put in there to have a discussion at some time or at some point, because it's bolded there, right? So I think it should be note that is in the report, and we're just receiving that, but I don't know if staff want to speak to that, but obviously I would say that's sort of maybe an in gold at some point. I don't know if Pat or somebody wants to speak to that.
I think what I heard from Pat and Randy is we're going to circle back to that and incorporate that after we have the April 4th meeting on the road exchanges. That's
fine.
Okay.
Just it was noted in black, darker writing. I wanted to make that note. It's in the report.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. And you answered my question there as well, Pat and Kim. I just had that question about the AMP, and certainly aware of what's above 600 would be the lower tiers. But when we look at what's existing, I guess is just an expansion on defining what's quantifiable or that we know of at this time. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions to be asked. So I'll call the question to receive for information. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much.
Just a quick note, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Member McQueen.
Just on that chart, it talks about secondary, primary, and then others. I would say that's connected to our official plan, how all those areas are identified. Right. So I think
that's correct.
Yeah, I think that's important to note that if somebody asked you that question or whatever, it's to our official plan.
Okay. Thanks for noting that. We've got no other business before us this afternoon. We are aware of our next meeting date, which is the rescheduling of the meeting in March to, I believe it's April 4th. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. So at this time, and I'm not aware, I guess it is 2:51. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
Scott. Thanks for keeping us on track. Take care.
Good afternoon.
Get home safe.